Today we will go through design of small water harvesting structures. The engineering measures adopted differ with location, slope of the land, soil type, amount and intensity of rainfall. Depending on these parameters, the methods commonly used are contour trenching, contour stone walls, construction of temporary and permanent check dams, and gully plugging structures. The small water harvesting structures are site specific. It depends on the location, soil, type of the soil, amount of rainfall, etc. And depending on these parameters, we can go for different structures like contour trenching, contour stone walls, construction of temporary and permanent check dams. Percolation tanks and irrigation tanks are constructed to harvest water and recharge it to ground water for use in agriculture. And also the percolation tanks or the silt detention tanks are provided to recharge the groundwater, and also for ponds be constructed for every 4 to 5 hectares in watershed to provide protective supplemental irrigation. In addition to that, we may go for farm ponds to supplement the agriculture demand for every 4 to 5 hectares. The above soil and water conservation management and water harvesting program should be implemented in an integrated manner on a catchment watershed basis. Functions of the structures: contour bunds, contour barriers, contour trenches, and contour stone walls will not only prevent soil erosion but also obstruct the flow of runoff water. Consequently, the obstructed water will increase the soil moisture and recharge the groundwater in the area. Check dams. This may be a temporary structure constructed with locally available materials. The various types are brush, wood dam, loose rock dam, and woven wire dam. The main function of the check dam is to impede the soil and water removed from the watershed. This structure is cheap but lasts about 2 to 5 years. The cost of the structure is depending on the materials used, the size of the gully, and the height of the dam. So we can go for the contour bunds, contour barriers, trenches, and contour stone walls to arrest the soil erosion as well as to arrest the flow of runoff water and consequently increase the soil moisture and recharge the groundwater. Check dams. There may be temporary structures like brushwood dam, loose rock dam, and one wire dam. These are cheap but last only for about 2 to 5 years. A permanent check dam can be constructed using stones, bricks, and cement. Small earthwork is also needed on both sides. Cost vary depending upon the length and height of the dam. A little water is also stored above the dam. This water recharges the groundwater. So we can go for permanent structures using stones and bricks and cement, and this cost vary also depending upon the length and height of the dam. Percolation pond. The percolation pond is a multi-purpose conservation structure depending on its location and size. It stores water for livestock and recharges to the groundwater. We can go for percolation ponds also, and it has got a multi-purpose. The water can be stored for livestock as well as to recharge the groundwater. It is constructed by excavating a depression, forming a small reservoir, or by constructing an embankment in a natural ravine or gully to form an impounded type of reservoir. So you can build it across a gully or a nala by putting an embankment or an embankment to store the water. Irrigation tank. The main function of this storage structure is irrigating crops. In Tamil Nadu, India, each tank irrigates from 10 to 5,000 hectares. In South India, there are about 20 lakh tanks irrigating about 3.5 million hectares. Earthen bunds are reinforced with masonry to collect and store rainwater for irrigation. The cost of this tank depends upon the size, location and site conditions. Water from the tanks is normally used to grow paddy crops. So irrigation tanks are meant mainly for the agriculture purpose, and in South India we are having about 20 lakh such tanks which are irrigating about 3.5 million hectares, and the cost of these structures depend upon the size and location and the site condition. They are constructed with earthen bunds reinforced with masonry to collect the water. Apart from the above, to increase moisture availability to agriculture and tree crops, in situ moisture conservation techniques must be adopted in addition to the large-scale soil and moisture conservation and water harvesting structures in the watershed. Also, we can take up the other techniques like to increase the moisture of the soil. You can go for some small structures for the agriculture purpose apart from construction of these large irrigation and percolation tanks, etc. The flood. These storage facilities would attenuate the flood during storms. These structures which are discussed will reduce the flood flow during storms. These measures will also ensure soil moisture and growth of trees on downstream, recharging the groundwater in the region and making available more water for drinking and irrigation water. So these structures will aid the drinking and irrigation water, and also they will help the growth of trees on the downstream as well as to recharge the groundwater. Construction procedures. The procedure for the construction of tanks and check dams on a watershed basis is as follows. The detailed studies are first made of the watershed to determine its current erosion condition, land use and water balance condition. So the studies regarding the characteristics of the watershed or a basin is to be determined before taking up the project, and the features like the current erosion condition, land use pattern and water balance condition, etc. to be studied. Based on these data, decisions are made on the construction of check dams. It may be temporary or permanent, percolation tanks and irrigation tanks. The community in the watershed should be involved in planning and selecting the type of structure and location of the structure. The community should be also involved in the process of planning and selecting the type of the structure. If large quantity of water is lost through runoff from the watershed, two to three percolation tanks or one irrigation tank can be planned based on the water availability. If we are losing most of the precipitation in the form of runoff in a watershed, then we can think of two to three percolation tanks or a one irrigation tank may be proposed depending on the water availability. A number of check dams can be provided to arrest erosion and to plug the gullies in the rivulets at appropriate places. Or also you can go for number of series of check dams on the nala or the gully at appropriate places. The construction can be done using human labor if necessary or by a mix of mechanical and human effort. In India, these works are mostly executed by laborers to give employment to the village people. Only 10% of the work is done mechanically, digging the foundation and excavating the earth to form bunds. Otherwise, 80 to 90% of the work can be done by machines if employment is not a criteria. Planning concept, design and construction of these structures. When selecting the construction site of check dams, percolation ponds and tanks, the following criteria can be considered. For check dams, this is constructed across rivulets and gullies to control erosion, prevent gully formation and to arrest the flow of water to allow it to the it to go underground. A number of such obstructions will be useful for soil and moisture conservation measures. Inexpensive temporary structures can be constructed using vegetation, stone or brushwood available at the site. Large numbers can be provided to reduce erosion and formation of gullies. Permanent check dams can be located at the junction of one or two streams or gullies using masonry structures. Percolation ponds. The following factors may be considered. It should not be located in heavy soils or soils with impervious strata, otherwise the topsoil should be porous. Percolation tank ponds are meant for percolating the water to recharge the groundwater or to increase the soil moisture, hence they should not be located on heavy soils or the impervious strata. Suitable and adequate soil should be available for forming embankments. The ideal location of a pond will be a narrow stream with high ground on either side of the stream. That means we should have a good valley-like location with a narrow stream, and that is an ideal location for construction of such ponds. Simple, economic and efficient surplus arrangement should be possible. When there is an excess flow, it should be taken out efficiently by providing the waste-way structures or some spillway-like structures. Pond size should be decided on the basis of the catchment area and the number of films possible for the pond in that area. The size may be decided on the number of films which can be done using the available water and the size of the catchment area. Irrigation tanks. The location should be such that it should receive water from a large catchment area. There should be land below the site suitable for irrigation. Cooperation and coordination of the farmers and the community is essential to use the water. The location should be such that it will be a narrow point with high ground and wide open space in front of the tank location so that a large quantity can be stored with minimum cost. The location should be such that it should have a good catchment area to receive a better runoff, and there should be available agriculture land on the downstream side, and there should be a cooperation and coordination of the farmers in the using of the stored water, and the location should be such that it should be a narrow point with high grounds on either side. That means there should be a valley-like location, and the stream should be narrow to minimize the cost of construction, and there should be a good upstream area or the water spread area to collect the water. Not much operation and management is needed in the case of check dams and percolation tanks, but irrigation tanks must be visited regularly to release water and conduct repairs and maintenance. So irrigation tank needs the better management for releasing the water as well as O&M operations. The water user associations or farmers organizations can be involved from the time of construction, operation of the system and maintenance of the structures. We will go through the examples of design of check dam, percolation ponds and tanks. The design procedure for the check dam, percolation tank and irrigation tank is more or less the same. In all three cases, the weir length has to be designed or calculated. So the design criteria for the check dams, percolation tanks or the irrigation tanks is almost the same, and we need to design a waste weir or a surplus weir to carry out the excess water. In the case of percolation tanks and irrigation tanks, the capacity of the tank has to be calculated on the basis of the rainfall and catchment area of the tank. For check dams, this is not necessary. For percolation tanks and irrigation tanks, there is a need to work out the capacity of the tank based on the rainfall and the catchment area. The method of calculating the weir length and the capacity are the same in all cases. The procedure is as follows. Select the site for the tank or check dam. Using the topo sheet or village map, find out the correct catchment area of the watershed at the location. Take the cross sections and longitudinal sections of the stream or gully where the tank or dam is constructed. Based on the levels taken, prepare 50 centimeter contour for sufficient area to decide the water spread area and the capacity of the tank based on the yield of the watershed. So the procedure involves you have to identify the location of the tank or a check dam. Then using the topo sheets you have to find out the catchment area. Then you have to survey the cross sections and the longitudinal sections to decide the capacity of the tank. You can go for 50 centimeter contours of that area to decide the water spread area and the capacity of the tank. We shall go through an example of a catchment area of 40 hectares where there is a rainfall of 625 millimeter and yield from the catchment, assuming the catchment is good and based on the tables available, it can be calculated as 51,480 meter cube of water runoff. Capacity may be designed as one third of the yield from the catchment, that is 17,000 meter cube. So you have to design a structure for 17 to hold 17,000 cubic meter of water. Deciding full tank level FTL, maximum water level and tank bund level. From the levels taken, draw the contour lines at every 50 cm interval between the bed levels and the highest ground level at the site. From these contour lines, the capacity of the tank at 0.5 meter, 1 meter, 1.5 meter, 2 meter height above the bed level is calculated. So we have to draw a contour map of 50 centimeter interval from the lowest bed level to the bank level, and you have to decide the capacity between 0.5, 1 meter, 1.5 meter and 2 meter level contours. The contour at which the tank can store one third or 51,400 cubic meter, that is 17,000 meter cube, is required height for the weir. This is calculated as full tank level. So we have to decide the full tank level. So you have to go for the one third capacity of 51,400 meter cube, that is 17,000 cubic meter of water to be stored, and you have to fix the contour at the level of the tank to hold this water, and this is called as the full tank level. For small tanks, the height of the flow over weir is taken between 0.3 to 0.6 meter, and this level is known as maximum water level. So when there is an excess flow or when there is a flow over 17,000 meter cube of water, then we have to design a weir to pass this excess water, and the height of this weir with this waste weir can be taken as 0.3 to 0.6 meter, and the level at which the top of the weir is decided, it is known as maximum water level. The tank bund level is calculated by adding 1 meter or more based on the height of the water stored above the bed level of the tank. So you can fix the top of the bund level keeping a freeboard of 1 meter above the maximum water level. So design of the weir, it is a waste weir. You calculate the maximum discharge in that nala or the river portion using an empirical formula Q equal to CIA by 360, where Q is the discharge in cubics and I is the intensity of rainfall in millimeter per hour, and A is the area of catchment in hectares and C is a coefficient. To decide the length of the weir, The formula used is Q equal to CL s to the power 3 by 2 R, which is 1.67 L into s to the power 3 by 2. For the broadcasted wear, C is 1.67. So using this formula, you can go for the length of the wear, which is equal to L equal to Q by CL s to the power 3 by 2, where C a constant which is used as 1.67, L is the length of the wear, H is the flow of height over the wear, which you have taken as 0.3 to 0.6 meter. Farm ponds. Rain-fed agriculture constitute over 55% of the net sown area in the country. The annual average rainfall of the country varies from 400 millimeter to more than 2000 millimeter, varying both in space and time. In low to medium rain-fed regions, the occurrence of high intense rainfall events with the short duration are very common, causing the soil erosion. So basically, we are depending about 55% of the sown area in our country on the rainfall, that is they are rain-fed agriculture system, and the rainfall varies from 400 to more than 2000 millimeter, varying both spatially and temporally. And the low to medium rain-fed regions, the high intense rainfall occurs in a very short duration, causing the soil erosion. Hence, the efficient rainwater management is necessary to improve water productivity and protect the natural resource base in the rain-fed regions. So, in such areas, it is very essential to have an efficient water management and to make use or to improve the water productivity and protect the natural resource. Farm pond technology has very good potential for implementation in different schemes of states or central government. Farm pond is the most important and promising technology in the integrated watershed management program with other environmental benefits. So farm pond is an important and promising technology in the integrated watershed management, and they also have environmental benefits. Farm pond should help the farmers for on-farm water management by using stored water for tackling the drought or dry spells. Dugout farm pond is most suitable water harvesting structures for semi-arid black soils. Black soils constitute 23.1% of the rainfed lands in India. So we are having about 23.1% of the rainfed lands of black soils in our country, and dugout farm pond is the most suitable harvesting structure in such semi-arid black soils. These areas receive low average annual rainfall ranging from 500 to 700 millimeter. Due to low infiltration rate of these soils, the storage losses will be minimum, which is good for storing water in dugout farm ponds. Since the black soil are having very low infiltration rate, and these soils are best suited for the storing the water in the form of dugout farm ponds. The production of runoff in these areas ranges from 10 to 20%, which is higher than the other soils. So the production of the runoff, that means we can store 10 to 20% higher quantity of water than the other soil in these black soils. Types of farm ponds. For the method of construction and their suitability to different topographic conditions, there are three types of farm ponds. They are excavated farm ponds for flat topography, excavated cum embankment ponds in mild sloping topography, and embankment farm ponds for hilly and rugged terrain. In the black soil regions with flat to mild sloping topography, generally excavated type ponds are more suitable. So we have got three different types of form ponds depending on the topographical conditions. They can be excavated form ponds for flat topography. Where the ground is very flat, you can go for excavated form pond. Excavated come embankment ponds in mild sloping topography, and embankment forms on the hilly and rugged terrain. Selection of site. The selection of site in a participatory mode depends on availability of suitable site for pond location, farmers' willingness to part with a portion of land for pond construction and to share harvested water with neighbors, optimum catchment size for considerable storage and ensuring long period. These dugout type of farm ponds involve the participation of the farmers because we have to choose or locate a suitable site for the pond location, and the farmer should have willingness to part from their land for the construction purpose, as well as they should share the harvested water with others. Well protected catchment for arresting rapid siltation. So we should have the catchment area should be well protected to arrest the rapid siltation. So you should not get eroded, the catchment area should not get eroded. So for that purpose it should be protected with some vegetation cover or plantation of trees, etc. While deciding the capacity, the conservation measures such as agronomical and mechanical measures are considered. The command area near the pond should be free from salinity, alkalinity, and the site should require little or no land shaping around the pond. So the command area should be free from salinity and alkalinity, and also should not have to go for the land shaping processes around the pond. Selection of the site for farm pond depends on local soil conditions, topography of the area, drainage capacity, infiltration, rainfall pattern, and distribution. Selecting the suitable site is considered as one of the most important steps in planning for farm ponds. The following points may be considered for site selection within farm area. So, with the participation of the farmers, once we choose the select, we locate the farm pond site. Then the selection should also depend on the local soil condition, topography of the area, drainage capacity, infiltration, rainfall pattern, and distribution. The following points are to be considered while selecting the site for the dugout ponds. Observe the average slope direction in the farm area in which farm pond is to be planned for construction. So, you have to observe the average slope direction. If the slope is towards left bottom corner of the field, a farm pond must be constructed in the left corner of the plot. So, if the slope is towards the left bottom corner of the area considered, then the farm pond should be constructed in the left corner of the plot. If the slope is towards bottom right corner of the field, a farm pond must be constructed in the right corner hand of the corner, right hand corner. If the slope is towards the bottom of the field, a farm pond must be constructed to the corner of either side with a proper field channel at the bottom of the field connecting to the inlet of the structure. So, if the sloping is toward bottom of that area considered, then the farm pond should be located at the bottom with the channels to guide the water to the structure. If the farm area has multiple slopes in different directions, a farm pond must be located in a portion of area in which water is drained into structure, maybe at center of the field or near to it. So, if it have got a multiple slope, then it can be suitably located at the center of the structure to collect the water. For construction of farm pond, the soil must have low hydraulic conductivity with minimum seepage and percolation so that water can be retained for longer time in a farm pond. So the soil should have low hydraulic conductivity of the minimum seepage and percolation to hold the water in the pond for a longer time. Soils with low infiltration rate are most suitable for construction of pond. Table 2 shows the infiltration rate for different soils. The black soil have good potential for rainwater harvesting without lining as seepage losses are minimum. So black soils are the best suited because they do not need the lining also to arrest the seepage losses. The seepage losses are more in sandy soils and their mixed textures and they require lining for storing water for more time. The following table shows the different types of soils and the infiltration rate. Coarse sand 2 to 2.5 centimeter per hour, fine sand 1.2 to 2, fine sandy loam 1.2, silty loam 1, clayey loam 0.8, clay 0.5. So you can observe the difference between clay and the coarse sand. The clay clay soils are suited for the construction of farm ponds. Soil depth. The depth of soil is important where rainwater harvesting systems are proposed. Deep soils have the capacity to store harvested water for longer duration. So depth of the soil is also an important factor for harvesting. Deep soils have the capacity to store harvested water for a longer duration. Soils having more than 1 meter are ideal for construction of the farm ponds. More the depth of the soil, the depth of farm pond will be more and reduces the evaporation losses. So the deeper ponds will reduce the evaporation losses. Topography. The topographic features of the farm catchment area may vary from place to place and the proposed land for pond construction must have minimum earth excavation so that cost can be reduced with increased storage. So we have to see the economy also. We have to look at such a topography that it the construction costs involved are minimum for storing the maximum quantity of the water. Drainage and catchment area. The drainage of the catchment area which produces surface runoff for storage in the farm ponds is very important from hydrological point of view. So the catchment area or the drainage area which drains or which contributes the runoff is an important point by view of hydrology. The structure must get filled at least once in the season so that farmers can use the water for critical irrigation during dry spells. The structure should at least gets filled at least for once in the season. The characteristics of a catchment that directly affect the runoff field are the slope of the area, infiltration of the soil, vegetation, land use and shape of the catchment, etc. We shall see the design consideration of the farm ponds in the next class. Okay, thank you.